I looked like I had it all together. I looked like I had everything: the husband, the business, the Instagram life. What nobody saw was I didn't have my name on a single credit card and no shared bank access. I couldn't buy groceries without his permission. While he was posting about our lavish date nights on Facebook, I was purchasing my clothes at Goodwill. From the outside, we were couple goals. From the inside, I was disappearing one permission at a time. This is episode 1, and I want because you can't understand how I got free until you understand how trapped I was. This is episode 1 of 3 of the beginning. I grew up in a very low income household where my parents both worked, but we still lived on government assistance. And I remember a decision I made at 15 years old that I was not going to live the way I had seen so many people in my family live. I began working at 15. I purchased my very first car and I paid my own insurance. I got my first apartment when I was 19, alone, and all my bills were paid. I went to school for accounting. I love numbers, and numbers come really easily to me. But when I met my soon-to-be husband, I was in a bit of a transition phase. I had just landed my very first accounting job. I was working 2 jobs because prior to getting my first accounting job, I was a server. So I was working 40 hours a week doing accounting, and I was serving nights and weekends. I had been dating this guy for about 6 to 8 months. Things were going great, and I had a decision to make because I was working at my new job and I was also serving on the weekends, and I did not want to continue working 2 jobs. I wanted to go all in on my career. However, as soon as they started taking insurance out of after my 90 days, finances became a little tight. And I had to decide if I was going to continue working both jobs so I could make ends meet, or I had the opportunity to move in with my boyfriend and we could combine households. We could combine our incomes. Financially, it just made sense. I was good with numbers, but there were a few other things that I should have thought a little further ahead on. So after moving in with this guy, things are going great, and I found myself pregnant, unmarried, working my career, no backup plan. And I remember the first thought finding out I was pregnant was, I don't even know if this is the man I want to marry. I disregarded my intuition. I continued staying with him. We made things work, and he later proposed. And I remember feeling like I never wanted to be in this position. And I have never felt like I ever wanted to be in a position of marrying a man just because but he said he loves me. He wanted to be a provider and he wanted to take care of us. So I went along with it. I chose to believe in good intentions. I had a 6-week-old baby. I was unmarried, and our incomes were not combined. I ended up getting another job. I worked full time for a while until he was almost 3 years old. Now, if you don't know, my son has some special needs. He was delayed on every single milestone. He didn't say his first words until he was 18 months old. He didn't walk until he was almost 2. After the second layoff came, it really came to realize that maybe I was better suited to stay home with him. So we made some sacrifices financially. We didn't go on regular vacations. We made financial sacrifices so that I could be home with our son. We never talked about the long-term effects of that decision. Me losing my income. How would I pay my car payment? How would I pay my insurance? At this point, we were married, but for less than a year. Losing my income also meant losing my independence and losing part of my identity. It also put me in a very vulnerable position where I needed him financially. I was not a person who could walk away. That is an identity crisis, especially since we had no shared accounts. He worked, he continued to build his career, he continued to network, he continued to get pay increases while I slowly lived in his shadow. Not only did I not have my name on any account, I had no idea what money we had coming in versus what we had going out. And now I realize what a bad decision that was to just let him handle it. I told myself, but because we were married and he was the father of my child, that he would handle it. And he being home with my son for a little while, a friend of a friend came to wanted me to watch their son while she worked since I was already home with my son. And slowly a childcare business was born. I saw a way for me to stay home with my son and still have access to money. Was childcare my passion? No. Was childcare my experience, my education? Also, no. I mean, I had various babysitting jobs in high school and college, but it was not my thing. But I saw an opportunity to bring money into my world in a way that fit my schedule. If you've been here for any amount of time, you may be familiar with the story of the affair. Shortly after, I ended up pregnant with a second baby while I was running this childcare business. And after the baby was born, I recognized that my husband was having an affair. I was in a hard place. I was emotionally eating. I was binge drinking after the kids went to bed at night. It was the only moment I had to myself all day long, and I took it. Before I knew it, I had drank a whole bottle of wine. I had eaten a whole package of Oreos. By the time I realized the affair, I had so much emotions that I had been suppressing, and I didn't recognize myself when I looked in the mirror. So I had an opportunity to take control of my situation, and I could not control him. And I had no idea what was going to happen in my marriage. However, I knew I could control me. And so I hired a health coach. I started taking steps to better myself because when you go through finding out your husband has an affair and you have no idea what this means for your marriage, and you also have no financial means to take care of your own children, you can't leave. I wasn't in a position to leave. However, I was willing to make some changes and I was willing to go through some hard things so I could come out better on the other side. I ended up dropping 36 pounds. I got my energy back. I was the healthiest and happiest I had ever been. And so many women wanted to know what I was doing. All of a sudden, I was coaching people in my DMs on nutrition and working out and just making themselves a priority. My world lit up. All of a sudden, I found the thing. I found my thing. I found the thing that lit my spirit up, which I had been missing for so long. Accounting didn't light my spirit up. Childcare didn't light my spirit up. But building other women up did. I was recommending supplements that I was already taking, what was working for me, and recommending it to my friends, family, anyone who came to me. And the commission started adding up. I was making over $1,000 a month around my kids' schedule, around nap times, and in my Facebook DMs. Not only did I love building other women up, I secretly loved the attention I was getting. For once, in a long time, I felt seen, I felt heard, and I felt valued in a way that my marriage never allowed me to. But there was this other sneaky thing that was happening that I was giving attention where I was getting it back. And that was not in my marriage. It was not from my husband. So I went all in on business because that is the thing that lit me up. That is the thing that allowed me to be seen. That is the thing that allowed me to feel. All of a sudden, things looked really good. I was bringing in more money. I was looking good. I was feeling good. And all of a sudden, he was taking me on dates. He was taking me on shopping sprees. Everyone was seeing how good our life was on the outside. But what most people didn't see was I was shopping for my closet goods. I needed permission to spend any of his money. If I went grocery shopping, I used my money. If I did any shopping on my own, I used my money. He paid the bills of the household, but I never got to see what was coming in or what was going out. I never got to see the bank balance. I never got to see the bank statements. I never got to see his paycheck. But because he was showing me appreciation, taking me to dinner dates and taking me on shopping sprees, all of a sudden he was boosting me up on his Facebook page. And we were doing these tag posts, tagging each other on how good life was. I thought life was getting better. The fact is, I had a business. I had women counting on me. I had women cheering me on. I had children watching. I had a life that looked one way in public, but it felt completely different behind closed doors. I didn't have the language for that. I didn't know what to call it. And I thought this is how marriage was for everyone. But the more layers I pull back of myself, I realized how deeply unhappy I was and how I felt trapped. Next week, I'm going to take you and talk about the moment I saw it so clearly. So make sure you're subscribed and